All right, everybody, welcome to our Follow-Up Boss office hours. Excited to dig in today. We're going to be talking about some customizations you can do inside your Follow-Up Boss account. This webinar is for everybody. Agents can do a lot of these things we're looking at, as well as obviously team leads and owners. But first and foremost, my name is Lee Adkins. I'll be your host today, along with Mr. Tim Erickson. What's going on, Tim?
Not a whole lot, just enjoying getting people ramped up for the 2024 season. I know spring season's right around the corner, so people are about to get busy. So now's the time to really hone in on your accounts, make sure that you guys are getting the data points that you want to, especially if you're leading a team and so forth. You want to make sure that your agents are super productive. So yeah, what we're going to share with you guys today will hopefully make your days a lot more easy and give you guys the data points that you want to make sure you're taking the most out of your spring and summer seasons.
Exactly. Awesome. So really excited to dig in with this. We're not going to get crazy technical either. So this really is designed for everybody. Cool little tweaks you can do. And Tim, first and foremost, give us just a quick little background on what you do at Follow Up Boss, and then we'll dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I am currently on the success team. So I help out with onboarding the new customers that come on, whether they're small teams or up to 15 people teams and so forth. I'm here to help out with making sure that their accounts are all configured correctly, get them their team adjusted to a new system, help out with getting imports done. But yeah, that's what I'm currently doing right now. But I've been on the support side before, so know the ins and outs of what kind of curveballs people are throwing every day. So
Right. I love that. That's a cool path to have all the support
yeah,
intel and then go in more into the customer service client side role as well. So love that for you. Cool. Well, let's dive right in. So I think the first thing we want to look at customizing, which is pretty simple, is the contact record. The actual what you see when you're viewing one particular contact, and what that looks like, and some things you can customize in that to make your workflow a little bit better. So Tim, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, we'll go right there.
sure. Absolutely. We'll use Bridget as an example, I think, unless did you have anybody
No, that's
specific?
great.
Sure. All right. So this is what your contact page is going to look like right off the bat. Up in the top left is going to be your most important items. Like the person's name, their contact information. Down below, you guys do have access to adding relationships. So think about if there's a spouse or family member that is also going in on this purchase with this person. You can add them directly here, just so that when you are emailing this person or if you're texting this person, if you want to include their spouse or their significant other, family member, whatever it may be, you can include them in on emails. It's super easy to CC them. Or if you also have phone numbers, you can do group text to them too, saying, hey guys, we're going to see 123 Main Street this afternoon. Here's a quick update and so forth. But just super
Absolutely.
easy to do that. So
And speaking of
this,
customizations in relationships, there are certain pre-applied labels, spouse, husband, like that. You can still type your own. Be mindful. I actually just learned this. Be mindful though of that label if you're using mailing labels, because mailing labels only pull in certain types. They're not really tags, but I'm going to call them tags for ease of conversation. But you can make your own. So if you need to say brother-in-law's cousin, you can do that, but be mindful that that may not work with some parts of the system, specifically like mailing labels, but also can be very useful if it is like a cousin that's a cosigner or something. You are able to say exactly what you want it to say.
correct, correct. But yeah, nice little customization there too for your labels. And then also keep in mind too that all of these fields that we're going to go over, these are all customizable. You can click and drag them. If you just hover over top of the title, you'll see dots to the left of them. Click and drag them to whatever way makes sense to you. Some people might like to see the details closer towards the top, or background or custom fields. You guys have customization of rearranging these.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm such a big fan of that, and it still shocks me how many people don't know that. And it's also just in your account. So you're not messing up your team's account. You're not messing up anybody else's account. This is your own view, to be able to move around. And I personally recommend, I mean, obviously details at the top, background up pretty high. You can't move things across sides. So if it's on the left,
Mhm.
it's on the left. If it's on the right, it's on the right. But you can do those things, and we'll get to the right in just a little bit. You can also
Correct.
collapse them if it's something that you're either really not using. And again, that stays sticky, for lack of a better term, kind of throughout your account. So if you have it closed and you're toggling through, and it may be a setting you leave on, or it may be a setting you're like, hey, right now, I don't really care about appointments and tasks or whatever. I just want to focus on activity. You can do it, ongoing or just as a one time to get into things.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, figure out what works out for you and feel free to click and drag those in a specific order that you're going to tackle on a daily basis. What's the most important to you? And go from there.
Awesome. And yeah, and then also do you want to go to the right side, or do you want to go in the custom field since we're looking at them?
So yeah, since we're on the left-hand side, we'll focus on those really quick too. So owners of the account, you guys have access to creating your own custom fields. We have a bunch of them in here just because this is a staging sample account, but you guys will probably start off with about 4 of them. I believe it's like birthday, website, closing anniversary. I believe it's just 3 that you start off with, and then you guys can continue to add to it. So owners of the account, if you want, go to admin at the very top of your account. On the secondary toolbar, you'll see custom fields. If you don't see it there, probably due to screen size, you can always click on more and you'd find it down below. Custom fields here, very similar. You'll see those dots on the left-hand side. You guys can rearrange these any which order you want to. You can hide them just right off the bat. So if you don't want to see pop by right off the bat, you can hide it so that your list can look smaller. And then there'll be a button that says show hidden fields. So it'll expand. So it's only showing the ones that are filled in. You can make it read only too, so that your agents will only be able to have access to viewing what's under those custom fields. And then last but not least, you guys can add your own custom fields. So you can make either text, which is just a free text box, numbers, special characters, letters, and so forth. Date, which is going to be a custom, this is going to be a calendar widget. And then if you have those recurring anniversaries, birthdays, closing anniversaries, so forth, have those. Numbers is going to be strictly just numbers. So can't put in decimals, so probably not a good one if you have rates or something like that, because it might be 6.9. You can't do special characters with periods or dots or anything like that. Drop down is going to be where you have those. So drop down, good example of this is going to be loan status, whether they're applied, pre-approved, approved, credit, repair. Instead of having to type those in each time to make it nice and uniform for your team, have drop-down options.
That's great. That was a great breakdown. It's super important, and obviously you can't change the format after you create the field. It's super important to get the right data. Like, for example, if it's a number field, you're able to search a range. So you could say, if your numbers are between 1 and 10, you could say, hey, show me everybody who's 8 or higher. But if you put that same data into a text field, you don't have that same ability. You can sort it alphabetically, which will technically get you alphanumeric, but you're not able to go between that. So be super mindful of the data you want, and especially with dates. We're going to show a little bit later where some of those dates can show up in other places for ease of conversation. So just be sure you get that format right when you're doing that, for sure. But yeah, that was a great review of that. And I think, yeah, and I just want to mention super fast too, that this order is global. So this order does change for the whole account, but generally that's a good thing. You want to have a stars link at the top, or is this a buyer or seller at the top? You want to be able to have some of those things potentially up at the top across your account. So
Correct.
cool.
Correct. So
I think that tackles that.
Yeah, we'll get back to Bridget. But yeah, that's custom fields for you. That's left-hand side for you. Moving over to the right. So very similar. You guys will have those dots. You guys can customize these. Sorry, my trackpad is very sensitive, but you guys can rearrange these as well. So again, as Lee mentioned, appointments are super important to you guys. Scooch that up to the top. But do those in order of importance to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so useful to have this. Like, some people really, I like having activity at the top, but I try to drive a lot of stuff by activity, like, yeah, they're back on your site. They open this email. So it's really handy to have that. But yeah, again, whatever your workflow is. And again, if you're just focused on setting appointments, And you don't need to see a bunch of like, are the action plans running? Oh, I have tasks, all that stuff. Collapsing those while you're focused on that. I think we all need more and more focus modes. So I'm really into this idea of the ability to be like, cool, I'm rocking through setting appointments. I'm gonna have appointments right at the top and go do that.
Yep, exactly. Perfect.
Cool. So I think
Uh,
that covers anything else on the contact record.
I think that's basically it. Oh yeah, one more thing that you guys can customize too is when you do, let me see if one of these other contacts has a good amount of, okay, this one has a good amount of activity. Something else to keep in mind too is if you want a specific conversation, this kind of goes in the realm of customizing, but if you have an important conversation that you want to have stick towards the top or just want to keep in mind, you guys do have this nice little star. So you can star any sort of conversation or any email or any text. And then you can always go to the start items, and that's going to make it very specific for you. So keep that in mind when you're thinking, how can I best maximize my client view?
Yeah, that's really handy. You know, the one thing I still don't do a great job of thinking about with this, you've also got, it shows the counts right there at the top.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but I still haven't quite trained my brain to always look for like, oh, look, there's been 7 texts and 1 pin
Yeah.
note and 2 drip emails. Like it's right there itemized for you. It's
Yep.
pretty handy. But yeah, I
Exactly.
love the star
Yeah.
thing. I think that's really cool. And you can obviously star and unstar it. So if it's something that's
Mhm.
temporary that you want to be like, don't forget we're working on this thing, you can
Exactly.
always remove it later.
Exactly. Cool.
Yeah, that's a good
All
one. I'm
right.
glad you added that. That's a big one.
All right. I think next is smart lists.
I believe
So
so.
smart lists are also going to go hand in hand with what you guys marked down for stages, tags, last time you communicated with people. These are going to be right up here, and you guys can customize these, which I highly encourage you guys to start to think about your day to day. What are your cadences going to be? So, based on people's urgencies to make moves. So, are these people, if clients here leads daily, hot, 2 times a week, warm, and so forth? So, these are the different style stages, and these are the different cadences. So, you guys can organize these lists in the appropriate order under manage lists. Same thing, you'll find your dots off to the left of their names, and you guys can click and drag them. We did a nice job and put little number emojis in front of them too, just as nice little enhancements. But these, I encourage you guys to organize these in the order of order operations for you guys.
Yeah,
What's
and
going to
this,
make your day better?
yeah, Tim, let's talk a little bit about kind of how this ordering works because it's partly global and partly not global. You can push the smart
Yeah,
lists out globally to the account, but unless you delete some other smart lists or do some other things, they're typically not in that order necessarily. So it's really important if you do this or you make some changes. Part of the reason we use the emojis as the numbers is to make it easy to say, hey, agent, I need you to go hit people, manage
yep,
lists, and drag these into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
yep,
So sometimes just be mindful if your agents have created some of their own smart lists or things like that, being mindful that they still may need to go into their account and move them themselves for them to look like yours. So I've actually got a little video I'll drop in the chat in a second on that literally covers that and something you can just send to your agents and be like, hey, do this and make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll drop that in a chat in a second. But anything else as far as kind of the sharing or ordering of those in that realm, Tim?
yeah. So, kind of what you're mentioning too is what I usually tell team leads: as once you guys configure a good order, either bring it up when you guys have your weekly meetings or send out a screen or take a screenshot of it and send it out to your team and say, hey guys, to make our calls with each other more efficient and so we're all on the same page, make sure you're in this order. But yeah, definitely have good communication with your team of what the order is that you'd like them to put them in. And then I'd suggest if they want to create their own lists, maybe put them down below
Yeah.
if they want to. But
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. And like Tim said, technically in the admin thing, um, these are also the names of the lists are also responsive, meaning they shrink with your screen size.
okay.
So be mindful you do similar to the admin panel, have a more button. So if you don't see all of them, but this is something I've gotten more into. I've always loved making good, really clear names. But also, the shorter you can make the name, the more smart list you can fit across the top. So
Yeah.
do your own little dance with that how you want. But if you want your agents to be able to see 6, 7, 8 smart lists across the top, you may consider either shorter names. You can also add that description there underneath. So that can be helpful as well. You can say, this is a list about this. It doesn't display when you see the smart list, but it is a little helpful for people to go, oh, right, that does that, or this one's supposed to
Yeah.
be here. So I just wanted to also throw that in.
Exactly. Cool. But yeah, that's basically what I have for Smartless.
Cool. Yeah, I
I'm
don't
thinking,
we had the let's do show though, maybe adding columns for custom fields. I know that's a
yeah,
little off base, but since we talked about custom fields,
yeah,
just the ability to customize the columns as well, which I didn't
you
have.
can absolutely do that. So a lot of people forget that not only can you customize the order of these, but you can customize the order of your columns too. So for instance, if I went to leads daily and I wanted to see last communication actually over here or text, just hover over the title and you can click and drag. If you want to keep that, which I won't do, but you can update list and that
Yep.
will save it. It'll freeze it in time so that when you come back to leads daily, that order is saved. So keep that in
Yeah.
mind. And then
And that
also, if
goes
you go,
for the no, keep going, you're good.
as you say, also going along with columns, you guys go through and see which columns you would like to see. If you click on columns, everyone with a check is going to be visible down below. If you don't want it, just uncheck it and it'll take away that specific column. All right, sorry.
No, that's great. I was just gonna remind, like you said it, but I was gonna make it super clear that number one, this is per smart list as well. So if you have certain smart lists that you do want to keep really short, or it's focused on last communication, you just want to keep it name, email, phone, last communication, you can remove other columns and resize them or reorder them, and then hit save list as the admin, hopefully, or owner in your account. You can have different column layouts, both what they are, the size, and where they are per each smart list. So if you're not doing this currently, don't lose sleep over going and doing
Yeah,
all of that on all of them. But it is really handy. Like if you're focused on hot, then maybe you don't necessarily need to see that they have a phone number and an email. Like if they're in your hot list, you probably are in touch with them. So you maybe don't need that column, but maybe you want to see some of the tags, or if you have an upcoming task, or if they have a custom field that says super hot, pre-approved, any of those things. Those may
yeah,
be things you want to see right here in this view, and that is all customizable.
yep, yep, exactly. And also to kind of go back to what we were referring to with the customizing your custom fields, you guys can actually add those too. So if you add some cool custom fields, like I was mentioning that lender status or the loan status, check that off. And over here on the right hand side, we have that here. And now you can sort by those too. Say, all right, that person needs credit repair. So just other ways that you can customize your accounts based off of those custom fields you made and the results.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so good. And I feel like so many times too, it's good to go back through these basic things because number one, they're definitely not as sexy. Like if people don't clamor to get on a webinar about, oh, I gotta move some stuff around or whatever. But it really does make a big difference. And I think as we all know,
Yeah,
saving a couple of clicks, making it easier for people to just find the right people to call and having what they need in front of them is how stuff gets done. So big fan of it.
exactly.
Cool.
Yep,
That was a great job. So one more section we're going to cover. It's technically, I guess, two, but want to dive into reporting specifically and some of the customizations there, and then some of the appointments and also how the appointments drive that reporting. So you want to kind of cover the basics here, Tim? I've definitely got some stuff to add, but if you want to cover
sure.
the core stuff in reporting, I'll tag along.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna put a little bit, make sure we have some data in here and use our nice little filters up on the top right. So now we're looking at all of our agent activity in this report. You guys have just these by default up at the very top, like new lead initially assigned and so forth. What you guys can do for customizing is you guys can add additional columns. So again, the ones that are visible are the ones that are checked off, but you do have all this other additional data that you guys can show on these reports. So don't be a stranger. Click on that little add column button. Any of these points that you want to pull in, you can say, great, now that's added here, and you can add additional columns. So that is how you can do that.
I'm a
You can
big
also,
fan of that. I think that's a great
yeah,
one. And I would encourage, if you haven't used this much before, there's probably two routes depending on your personality and how you think about things. The first one might just be to leave the default one and not have a bunch of columns, because it does get wider. As you can see, it's a little harder to read with more columns. So I wouldn't necessarily get crazy with adding a bunch if you're not really using this yet. But again, it's helpful to what you want to see down there. It also, and I don't know the answer to this officially, Tim, you may have to look it up real quick. If you export, does it just pull all the fields, or does it ask you if you want to pull, does it pull the columns you have? Oh, there you go. So you can check
yep,
it in
you
the
can,
export.
exactly.
Okay. I don't
Yep,
mess with that much, but that's super handy too. Then you can
yeah,
control what you export if you're using a third-party dashboard, or you want to have some sort of spreadsheet like pivot table or something fancy. You can pull all this data out and customize which columns you're going to export. But back to the adding columns or removing them, it's easy to get lost in that. Tim and I looked at a few before we went live. That's kind of like, this is kind of advanced. Like, most people don't really
don't
need
want to overwhelm you.
all of these. But I would say the alternative might be to turn all of them on, if that doesn't hurt your brain, and figure out what you want and start to pare that down.
Yep,
But trying to kind of middle of the road it, I think, is a little crazy. So I'd either keep it really simple, look at all the things you got and figure out what you want to measure. And then, yeah, Tim, if you want to go through some of the, let's cover the drop downs on the top right just a tiny bit.
yeah,
So obviously the timing is important.
yep. Your time frames. Then you have three different options here, either just strictly your web leads, which are coming in through different sources, Zillow, Truly, your website, have you. And then manually add leads, and then just combined. And then you can be specific towards specific teams or specific team members too. But yeah, just
Yeah.
easy ways that you can really, if you're having one-on-ones with people, Larry just came in for his one-on-one, I'd choose him and go through his activity. So,
Yeah. I love that. I think it's such a good use case for that. Again, we have it on all time because it's a demo account with some old data in it. Though something I've really been recommending to people is to keep it on something like 7 days or 14 days or 30 days consistently. Because then when you look at it, if you're going to look at it weekly or daily or monthly, you're looking at congruent data. Like, if you're always looking at
yep,
last 7 days, every time you look at it, you're looking at the last 7 days. So you're not going from, we had 30 leads to, there's 4,000 people. Just makes it a little easier to be apples to apples if you kind of leave it in a certain range. And you're like, oh, great, we had 5 this week, or we had 2 this week, or we had 7. It just makes it a little, I know for my brain, it makes it a little easier to think
yeah,
about.
agreed.
And then as far as time frame as well, there's that daily box over on the left a little bit more, and that's actually just controlling the graph that you're looking at. And so it changes sometimes with your parameters. So we're on last 30 days, so we don't have monthly as an option. But if we were on last year, we'd have monthly as an option. So you can view these segments however you want. If you really want to see it daily for a year, there's going to be a whole bunch of little dots on there. If you want to see it monthly, there's going to be 12. You want to see it weekly, there's going to be 52. So, and then the compare button allows you to compare that over that same frame. So if it's year, it's going to be last year. If it's 30 days, it'll be the prior 30 days. Kind of overlay. And what I finally figured out recently is the lighter line is the prior data, and the darker line is your setting at the top right, basically.
Yep.
But really
Exactly.
helpful finding trends. Do we have more calls answered on Thursdays? I mean, there's a lot you can really do with this. So we just wanted to at least run through some core things. And we're not going to get into it, but there's a ton of drop downs here. You can compare this thing to that thing. You can drop
Yep.
down the total lead count and agent activity for like 7 different other kind of preset easy buttons. And again, the data on the right-hand side stays consistent. So you're in everyone, all leads this year as you toggle through. Again, if you want to hit one of these, that's fine, Tim. I don't want to go into great detail, but I do love the leads not acted on. I mean, and the how quickly.
Mhm.
So like this literally shows you all the people in your database that have not been contacted. And it breaks it down by not called, not emailed, not texted.
Yep.
It's pretty handy. If I was running my own team right now, I would be checking this every morning. That's your easy button
Cool.
for who in here has never been contacted.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, cool. Well, let's hop to appointments. I think I think
All
let's
right.
hop to the customization of appointments
Okay,
and then the appointments reporting.
sure. So customization under admin, more under the secondary toolbar, because again, only so much space on this. So we can go appointment types. Very similar to everything else that has little dots. You can click and drag those too. So appointment types, exactly that. What type of appointment it is? Listing appointment, buyer consultation, so forth. You guys, as the owners of the account, owners can add types, you can edit them, delete them, rearrange them. Appointment outcomes. So what came of those appointments? Add those there. And then those, same thing, you can click and drag those. Those will show up anytime you guys go to create an appointment. Ooh, down here, appointment type, outcome. So how you organize those is how it's going to show up here. And
Yeah,
then
this is so important to measure. I think it's just so important to figure out what you want to measure. How many buyer consultations do we have? What happened? Did we win them? Did we not win them? And where you are right now is really where you can start to see that. How many of these happened? How many per agent? How many by team this year, last 30 days, forever? Really handy stuff here. And there's some sorting you can do as well when you click on the headers.
yeah, exactly. So with these two, so as Lou was mentioning, if you click on these, notice all of this, different types, outcomes, but that's a sorting that you can do. But this is going to also provide you with the filters up at the very top. So you could also sort this way. Show me all my buyer consultations with a specific outcome. And then of course you can export these if you're using a third party, if you want to report on those too. But all in all, this is going to show you guys a better grasp of what your agents are doing, appointments, and what are their outcomes. So definitely encourage you guys to go in here. Feel free to edit any bit of the types or the outcomes, make it more suitable to you and your brokerage or you and your team, so that you guys can make more powerful data from these appointments. Why is this agent winning so much versus some agents who are young, newer? How can this more advanced person train the new people? So
Absolutely. Yeah. Or like, hey, this guy wins 90% of his buyer consults. Like, what are you doing?
What's
What
he
are you
doing? What's his
saying?
secret sauce?
Right. Or you're losing all of them. How do we train or change the lead routing maybe? And then the other thing I love about this report, it has the lead source right here and a deeper marketing source. So if you're running, say, a Facebook ad or pay-per-click campaigns or anything like that, a lot of times that data also pulls into a marketing source. So this is really powerful because you can actually drill potentially down to the campaign or keywords that somebody came in on that created an appointment, or that appointment created an outcome that was, favorable. You could say, wow, that pay-per-click ad really drove a lot of business, or that particular Facebook ad really drove a lot of leads that turned into buyer appointments or listings. And you can kind of backtrack, for lack of a better term, to see more of that data, but it's all right here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I wasn't planning on doing this, Tim, but can we hop super quick just to agent goals? Because I also wanted to show that if you're using appointments, those appointments also are gonna be an agent goal. So whether your agents are using agent goals in the sense of filling them out or not, their appointments, their deals, all of those are in here no matter what. Like that data is aggregating here regardless. So again, using these appointments is really going to help you with a one-on-one, because you can also view it here and go, okay, that great. They have 10 buyer consult appointments and 3 of them turned into appointments or buyer brokerages or whatever. But all about appointments. People should be using appointments. And Jennifer had a great question. And Tim, I think I know the answer, but I don't know it enough to say 1,000%. Obviously, when you create an appointment, you can check the box to send a calendar invite about the appointment.
Yep.
Jennifer's question was, when you update the outcome after the fact, does it email the client? And I'm fairly certain it doesn't, but
No, that little checkbox is only specifically there to send out the invite
it's
and
only
the
for
text
creating
reminder.
the appointment.
You got it.
In
Yep.
fact, if I'm not mistaken, that's the only thing on that appointment card that the other person can't see. They don't even see the type. They don't see that it's a buyer
Correct.
consultation unless you put that in the title, but they don't
Correct.
see appointment type or outcome. But Jennifer,
Yeah.
what I would do was do that on one person, maybe who you know or have worked with recently. So if they say something, you can be like, oh, sorry, the system did something weird. I'd maybe try it on one person to be 1,000% sure. And you can't bulk update them anyway. You have to update them one by one. So it would happen that way. And Jennifer, if you think about it, let us know. I'd love to. You can reply back to my recording email if you have the answer.
Yeah. No, I think it's meant not to be in there because it can get very awkward very quickly.
Right. Listing lost.
Exactly.
Listing expired. We're not going to talk about that.
Exactly.
Cool. But yeah, if you want to head back to that appointments reporting, I mean, I guess that's really I think we're pretty much through there anyway. But just to kind of begin, like you can sort by, our oldest appointments, our newest, our
different types, and outcomes. But yeah, definitely a few different ways to customize it here, and then ultimately you can export too. So
yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Let me get back to our notes officially, but I think we covered everything. Obviously, there's more things you can customize in your Follow Up Boss account, but we felt like those were really a lot of the primary things that would either move the needle, or there may be features that have been around for a while that have either gained some improvements, or we figured out new use cases for them. It's always evolving. So great. So Tim, if somebody is on this and they literally are like, I've never done any of that, like how would you recommend? Because obviously they don't need to spend 4 days in here doing all of this, but what's a good way to kind of start to think more about this or implement this if that's of interest to people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would break it down by specific areas too. Like if you want to really focus on appointments, of course, you'll see that there's tool tips almost on every page that you will see. So you can always click on that. It'll show you a little video, or learn more. We'll open up a help doc here, or even more simple. You always have this little question mark down here. Feel free to click on that. This nice little search guide up here is a keyword search. So I could do appointments, and it's going to show me every help article that have appointments, if there's a webinar, if there's an office sessions on this. But basically, anything that we have without appointments, that keyword will show up here. So check those out. And then, of course, if you're looking for something, looking for answers that you can't find in the help center, always feel free to contact us. You can either write directly into us, and this will go into our support queue, or you can always give us a call. We're available 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we're always happy to help you guys out. Of course, if you do send in a ticket, typing is great, but even better, if you want to help us out, record a video. It's not going to record your face and everything, so don't worry about that. It'll record the screen. So it can always help us out with finding quickly where you're at, so we can return an answer for you just as fast. So
awesome. Love that. I'm so glad you covered that. That's so good. And for what it's worth, I mean, I've been a user since 2013. I still constantly reach out to support with stuff, and I constantly search the knowledge base. This is a good pro tip. It's almost embarrassing to admit that I do this, but if you just go into Google and type Follow Up Boss, whatever you're looking for, there's an extremely high chance that at the very top is going to be a Follow Up Boss actual help desk article that gives you all kinds of caveats and intel. That's how I learned the tag thing for mailing labels. Just the other day, I was like, oh, it doesn't work with custom labels. That's important to know. But highly recommend it. I mean, again, like Tim said, the question mark's fantastic. Sending a video or detailed information to support is fantastic. But if you're looking for an on-demand answer, Google Follow Up Boss, what you're looking for. I also just dropped a link to the Follow Up Boss YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe and or turn on alerts there. There's also a playlist for all of our office hours we've done just about ever. which are typically like this on a specific topic. So if you want to check out some of those, that would be a thing. And yeah, and you can go straight to it right there as well.
Yep. Different playlists and all of that. So feel free to come check them out. There's definitely not a lack of content in here. But,
Absolutely. And I love that you showed the unified search. Actually, let's do that. If you want to show more here, that's fine. But I want to show the when you hit the question mark, it's really cool because now it says search across our knowledge base. It pulls in YouTube video, it pulls in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure everybody knows this. This is gonna be my mantra for 2024. It's really great because you can find videos or an article or a webinar or a podcast. It's all in here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really fantastic search that got upgraded recently. And I think a lot of people aren't aware how great it is now to find all the things in one spot.
Very quick.
So I shouldn't have said Google.
Every training call. Yeah.
I apologize to everybody who I said go to Google and put in Follow Boss. Just go to Help Center and search.
All good. All good. We do that too. But yeah, the Help Center is fantastic. And then if you guys have not joined already, here's another fantastic resource. Facebook community. We're up to, I think, just broke 90,000 or 19,000 people in here just this past week. But join here. There's a wealth of knowledge in here. People are always throwing up webinars, tips and tricks in it. If you guys have a question, don't be a stranger. Ask the question. I can almost guarantee you'll get 5 to 10 answers before the end of the day. But
Absolutely.
People are very willing to help out.
I just dropped a link into that directly. You can find it through the question mark where Tim did, but if you're not in that group, you should be in that group.
If you're not, basically there's a little questionnaire. I think it's like 3 questions, like what's the email that you use to sign in? So just use your login email so that our marketing team can match you up and they can let you in. But it's a subscriber only group. So keep that in mind.
Beautiful. Perfect. Great job, Tim. That was awesome. I think we covered a lot of stuff, but hopefully it wasn't completely overwhelming for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, if any questions come up, please don't be a stranger. We're always here to help out.
For sure. And if you're watching this on the YouTube live stream, we don't always check the comments, but we'll check them after. So if you have a question too after this, drop it in there and Tim or I will definitely be sure to answer it there.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure, Lee. And thank you guys for joining.
Absolutely. All right. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you again soon.
All right. Take it easy, guys. See ya.